Hello, wrestling fans.
Are you ready? Let me tell you something, brother. British wrestling's very own Steve Saxon presents the iSax Wrestling Podcast. It's just one more platform for him to get his shit in.
And welcome back to the iSax Wrestling Podcast. I am Steve Saxon. This is episode 6. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody that downloaded and streamed the last episode with Impact Wrestling, Global Force Wrestling and World of Sport Wrestling superstar Nick Aldis, aka Magnus. It was a great interview where he gave a lot of information about why World of Sport and ITV has been postponed already. A lot of people listened to it, a lot of people downloaded it, but not many people are subscribed. Unbelievable. Why would you come onto Spreaker? Why would you come onto iTunes? Listen to my stuff. Share my shit and not subscribe or like or rate or comment. Come on. Get it done, please. It only takes a couple of seconds, and in all seriousness, it does help the podcast. If you want to carry on listening to the iSax Wrestling Podcast, if you want me to continue finding these interviews with British wrestling legends, then I could really do with you liking, subscribing and rating and commenting on whatever platform you're listening to this on, whether it be Spreaker or iTunes. If you could just do that, please. I would very much appreciate it. Anyway, this episode threw us out there once again last week on social media that we're going to have Harvey Dale during this today on the iSax podcast. A lot of people jumped on the bandwagon again. There seems that anything I'm sticking on Facebook at the moment in particular, people are jumping on and getting behind and commenting on. They all have an opinion of it, which is amazing. So thank you very much for that. But it was thrown out there that as well as Harvey being the promoter of Hope Wrestling, he's also got a documentary in the works called Wrestling with Depression. But the main factor that people seem to be commenting on and getting involved with was Harvey's relationship with fellow British wrestling promoter from Southside Wrestling, Mr. Ben Owd. Now, I did invite Ben onto this podcast to join Harvey, but he politely declined, let's say. I am going to make sure that once this podcast is out there, that this link is sent to him, that he is given the opportunity to listen to it, and I will invite him back once again. Not saying that he will, not saying that he won't, but that invitation will be sent out to him. And if he wants to respond by coming onto the iSax podcast himself and getting his side across, then that would be tremendous. Or even just a written statement that I can read out from him. But I will try and carry on pushing the subject a little bit. It seems it's got a lot of people interested for whatever reason, positive and negative. But for now, I'm going to cut the bullshit. I'm going to get straight on with it. I will be back at the end of the interview. I will not actually be conducting this interview. I've got so much going on at the moment with Britannia Wrestling Promotions, with the iSax podcast, with personal bookings as well that seem to be coming in thick and fast at the moment for me personally, which is excellent. And also, obviously, real life as well. So I asked my friend, you would have heard him before on the iSax podcast, Mike Holland, works for me over at Britannia Wrestling Promotions and one of my closest friends. He's trying to get into the world of podcasting, so I thought this would be an excellent opportunity for Mike. He does a great job with this interview, as I'm sure you'll agree at the end. So for the first time, you're going to be listening to somebody else's voice rather than mine. You lucky, lucky people. So thank you very, very much. Let's get straight to it. This is the iSax Wrestling Podcast with Harvey Dale and Mike Holland. Enjoy.
Professional wrestling personalities with no filter in sight. Sit back and relax because it's time for the iSax U-Talk interview. Seriously, who thinks of these names?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the iSax podcast. As you may have noticed, I am not Steve Saxon. It is me, Michael R. Holland, filling in for Steve this week. But what an interview we've got for you. He is the owner and promoter of Hope Wrestling. It is the man with the golden tongue, Harvey Dale. Harvey, thank you very much for joining us this week.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been very much looking forward to it.
I have to apologise about Steve's absence. He's, apparently he's a very busy man, up to a lot of things. I think he's just sitting out in his garden in Wales doing nothing. He is that lazy.
Yeah,
but nevertheless,
after all, I mean, there's sheep to watch and anything else in Welsh people do. Do Welsh people do anything else?
No, they watch sheep, eat cheese on toast, and apparently just bitch about the English. But nevertheless, Steve's loss is the fans' gain because I'm clearly better than him. So let's just get to it. Harvey Dale, thank you so much for joining us. And obviously, Hope. Tell us about Hope, because Hope is one of the premier companies in the UK. I mean, as a wrestling fan, as well as someone who works in the industry, I follow all the UK promotions. Anyone who's got a name, we follow them. And Hope's up there. So for the fans who aren't in the know, tell them a little bit about Hope.
Hope Wrestling was the brainchild of myself back in 2013. So we've been going since then now. Originally, I said, for anybody who doesn't know the backstory, I used to manage Styx in a lot of places. Styx is a very well-known, very credible training school called the House of Pain in Nottingham. We got talking one night, because Styx used to live with me as well. We got talking one night about how it seemed harder for the Nottingham-based trainees and things to break out these days. You saw all the Birmingham cars going everywhere with like Ryan Smile, Damien Dunn, Pete Dunn, who all sort of came through together as well. They seem to be getting bookings left, right and centre all over the country, whereas the Nottingham lads who were sort of equal in the ability levels of some of those guys were really struggling and finding it hard to get out. So we said, look, why don't we put together and something, and I'll do it. I said, why don't we put together something where the top trainees from House of Pain who need to sort of make the step up and have somewhere to go, why don't we do a promotion where we can showcase what they can do mixed in with the rest of the best UK talent. And then obviously we sort of sat there puzzling over a name for what seemed like hours and hours and hours, and we must have skirted over it 50 or 60 times by saying, we need somewhere for the House of Pain trainees to evolve to, almost like an evolution of House of Pain, like if it was like House of Pain's Evolution or something like that. And it still didn't twig for about an hour until we just sat there with the letters going H-O-P-E. Ah! And it kind of just, it was born from that, really. It went well, really. House of Pain, Evolution, Hope.
The best names always come naturally.
Exactly.
It's a fantastic name. And obviously Styx, very, very well-known trainer, as you say. He's been around for a very long time, and a lot of great talent have came from the House of Pain.
Yeah, they certainly have. I mean, he's certainly one of the best. I mean, the training facilities they've got there, the unit they've got, the way he goes about and does everything. It's one of the most credible schools to come through in the entire country.
Well, let's also talk about, as you said before, Hope. You were a manager, and you still are. I mean, I've seen you a few times now at our local friends TNT in Liverpool.
I can only apologise for that.
I mean, I personally think you're putting yourself with the Manc Union. It was genius.
Well, yeah, I mean, what does every Mancunian faction need? It needs a Cockney to sort of drive people insane up there, don't it? No, to be honest, I mean, I'm having a blast up there at TNT. I don't get to do the manager gimmick as much as I would like to anymore. The manager gimmick obviously it became to the forefront, and we did a lot a few years ago when I was sort of touring around everywhere managing Styx and stuff. And when me and Styx went separate ways, there was a certain promoter, who I'm sure his name will come up at some point during this later on, who went around rubbishing me to quite a lot of other promotions and things like that, and cost me a fair bit of work. But it's nice to sink my teeth back into that role, because it is still something that I massively enjoy. So I'm having a blast at TNT. And to say that I manage three of the best wrestlers, I mean, they're not just three of the best wrestlers in the country, in Ashton Smith, Sam Bailey and Bubblegum. They're three of the best wrestlers in the world, as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Completely agree with you there. And going back to what you said, putting a Cockney with two Mancs, that's fantastic, because everyone knows there's no Manchester United fans in Manchester. So
well, exactly. I mean, they're all from Plymouth, most of them, aren't they? I'm not quite as far south as that, but
it makes sense that a bunch of Mancs would have a Cockney with them. But I mean, as you say, as a manager, I've always found you. I've seen you before. Found you very entertaining. I mean, obviously that translates well over to when you take over a promotion. When you start promoting yourself, obviously you know what it's like to be out there, so you know what to expect. I mean, I've always said, guys who start promotions who are coming from within the business are the guys who have got the know-how. And it's as yourself included, did you ever have any interest in becoming a wrestler? Because obviously everyone gets involved. Everyone gets involved with wrestling to wrestle at some point. I mean, I've seen you. We'll talk about this later, but I've seen you on YouTube doing things that you shouldn't do.
Stuff that you wouldn't expect me to be able to do. It was very short-lived, my ideas of becoming a wrestler. I mean, I'm not the most flexible guy in the world. I'm I'm not a high flyer. I'm not bendy. I can't do any of that. I tore my cruciate ligament playing football many years ago. I mean, I'm in my mid-30s and stuff. It's just one of them, really. It's a case of I tried it. I wasn't good at it, so I found something else that I was good at and ran with that.
You've recently taken over LCW, which is Leicester Championship Wrestling. How did this come about?
How did what? Sorry.
How did it come about? You taking over LCW?
It was somewhere that I'd worked for quite a while over the time. However, things didn't necessarily pan out for me there. It was about the sort of time that me and Sticks went separate ways. There was another lad working there at the time called Alex Gracie, who for personal reasons I've got massive issues with. I mean, I've got no issue with his wrestling. I don't find he's a bad wrestler, particularly as a human being. He's up there with being as big a piece of shit as what Ben Old is. And basically it was...
Take long, did it?
It never would take long. I mean, there are certain people around the wrestling business that just are generally pieces of shit, and Alex Gracie is one of the biggest pieces of shit I've ever come across. I said to John Shipley, I don't want to work here anymore if you're keeping him around. John had no intention of getting rid of him, so I walked away from LCW at the time. A couple of years went by. John had expressed an interest with me a couple of times about bringing me back. Wanting me to come back in there, and I ended up going back, and I think I was there for about 4 months when it sort of stumbled across my knowledge that John would potentially be interested in selling it because he just had a young family, and he wanted to spend more time with them and less time worrying about wrestling. So I approached him with an offer, which he accepted, and we went from there.
I mean, branching out, I can't see that being a bad thing for you. I mean, obviously that's now spinning a few more plates. Has it become more difficult now running LCW, Hope? You've got training academies that are, in the East Midlands and Milton Keynes. You're talking about 70 miles apart. This must be difficult for you.
The M1 is something I'm very familiar with. Let's just say that, yeah. Right. I spend an awful lot of time up and down the M1 between things. I mean, it's a lonely old drive sometimes up and down to go places, but it's you do what needs to be done. So we'll go as far out and spread our wings as far as we need to.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the training academies as well, has anyone come out of these academies that, names wise, that the listeners would know?
I mean, bear in mind that our academies, we don't actually run the Milton Keynes one anymore. We've gone separate ways. That's quite recent, anyway. But we've got Hustle Malone and Ashley Dunn would certainly be two of the guys that I would champion that are certainly having breakout moments. My next
question was going to be, I mean, any guys that we should keep an eye out for. Guys who are going to break out and have a good year in 2017.
Yeah, most definitely those two. I mean, Hustle Malone hangs around with another couple of lads in a little faction as well called Team Mads. They're good lads. Chase Williams and Danny Mayhem, they're going to go places. And we've got Jay Garner as well as another high flyer. Had an absolutely phenomenal match with Osprey back at our Bedford show about 2 months or so ago. So there are some names to watch out for. But yeah, Ashley Dunn's just debuted with Rev Pro, and done himself very, very proud. He did What Culture with Kelly Six not long ago as well. I think it's definitely Ashley Dunn's time to show that he's every bit as good as everybody thinks he is. His natural ability is up there with Will Ospreay's. So it's just going to be a case of getting his name out there, getting him seen, and Ashley Dunn will be one of the high flying lads that we're hugely talking about over the next few years, I'm sure.
Well, it's definitely one to keep an eye out for. Then you heard it here first, people. Ashley Dunn. I'll be jumping on the old YouTube after this and getting a little look at that one myself. Moving a little bit away from the wrestling side of wrestling at the moment. You worked on a project started last year, I think it was. I know you made it apparent over the last couple of years. You've been working on this project, Wrestling with Depression.
Yes.
Which is it's a very touchy subject, but at the same time it's really healthy that it's now we're bringing mental health in general in this country, and especially in males, it's something that's not discussed much. And as someone who does have, who has, clinical depression, someone who does deal with that every day, for me, it was a big deal when you announced 12 months ago that wrestling with depression, you were working on this thing. So just tell us how that came about, and where this came from for you personally.
As you probably noticed from any of my social media or anything, I'm not overly scared to talk about anything. If there's something on my mind, it generally gets blurted out. And depression is something for me that held me down for a while. The stigma around it when people refuse to talk about it, and you feel embarrassed to speak of it and things. There's too many people that do sit there and suffer in silence, and it's not a nice place to be. So what the idea of it was that we would try and encourage more, certainly people within wrestling and things to come out and speak about it. And we try and put a documentary together, and we're still putting together the documentary so it can be released and go out there. But the idea behind it is just that we get as many people to come forward and share their stories and their experiences of what depression means to them and how it's kicked them down and stuff. And hopefully it opens people's eyes to realise that sometimes it is okay to not be okay. And you should be able to freely sort of stand there and ask for help, or to say to people, look, I'm not okay. Will you talk to me? Can I get some help getting through this? And because it's crippling. It can be debilitating. It can make you not want to get out of bed most days. As I'm sure you know. And it's just something that I want people to understand that it hits even the sort of the most outgoing personalities, perhaps like me and things like that. It hits hard some days, and I still have days where you really struggle to find that motivation and that final kick to get out of bed and get on with the day when you just think it'd be easier just not to be here anymore. So the more eyes we can open, the more people we can touch, and the more belief we can give people in the fact that it isn't something to be ashamed of, and that it is okay to come and talk about it, then the better, really.
I'm at a loss of words personally, because as you just literally said everything I've ever thought. Yeah, there are days where you physically don't have anything in you to just get up and face the day. And I'm as a person who suffers, I'm grateful that someone has, best way for me personally to put it, is had the balls to stand up and say, mental health is something we need to talk about. It's not something that should just be shunned away from and treated as a joke, or treated as, as a stigma. It's something that so many people suffer with, and it should be addressed. I mean, personally, when you first addressed this 12 months ago and started working on the documentary, I don't know, I felt I actually, it's a weird thing to say, I actually slipped worse, because it made me feel kind of ashamed that someone was still, that people were brave enough to talk about it, and I wasn't.
Yeah. And
you actually inspired me, obviously I didn't take anything public. This is the first time I've ever really acknowledged it. But I'd never mentioned it to anyone in wrestling, involved in the business. And I actually turned to a good friend of mine in the business, Dylan Roberts. And I spoke to I opened up to Dylan about it, and he was, and it helped so much, because Dylan's an absolutely fantastic human being for anyone who's met him. He's brilliant, and Dylan helped me out a lot talking about that. Steve outside of the business is one of my best friends in the whole world, and I opened up at that time. I opened up to Steve about what was going on, and it does help. I mean, it's not necessarily saying you need to go speak to a doctor. Speak to someone, as long as you can get a dialogue.
I think that's what it is. It's just even if you don't want to go to, as you say, even if you don't want to go and seek professional help, like with doctors and hospitals and things like that, it's just good to open up and talk to someone. So my lowest point was I got in one night, and I said to my partner at the time, I said, I'm not okay. I think I need to go to the hospital, and she drove me to the hospital. and we sat there, and I did go and seek something out that way. But that was the very first time I sort of acknowledged it. I'd hidden it for so long, and tried to battle it on my own, and I wasn't getting anywhere. It was just getting worse, and I felt myself getting deeper and slipping further and further into being somebody that even I didn't recognise when I looked in the mirror. That eventually I just cracked and said, look, can you take me to the hospital? I think I need to go there because I'm really frightened of what I might do tonight. And it's the best thing I ever did, really, because you do learn then that people's reaction, when you think people's reaction is going to be one of absolute horror and that they're not going to understand or anything, everybody then suddenly thinks, shit, this explains why you've been distant, this explains why you've been moody, this explains why you're constantly on edge and things like that. It's nothing else. It's because you're suffering, basically, and you can open up a little bit more. And I just thought this is what we need to do for other people. We need to bring this to the forefront so that other people understand that that's the way it should be.
I couldn't agree with you more. Really couldn't. I mean, I know we had Jane Porter, aka Klondike Kate,
yep,
on one, like the first 2 episodes of the ISAX podcast, and she did discuss she just talked about hearing about men wrestling with depression, and she basically said that she loved the idea. She thought it was a brilliant idea because so many wrestlers are now opening up and talking about like the fact that they have dealt with depression or they are dealing with depression, and I think it's healthy because no matter what kind of show you're working on, to fans you are larger than life. As a wrestler, you are larger than life. We watch these guys on TV. We go to the live shows, and that's what they are. They're there to entertain, but to see them as real people and to see them going through the same kind of problems that some of our fans out there might be, I think it makes it just a little bit easier and a little bit, I don't know the word I'm looking, just a little bit safer for them to talk about what's going on. And I think by doing this, you've helped. Not only people in the wrestling business, but fans who are going to be dealing with depression are going to, they're going to get a lot of help. They're going to find that help that they need. I say, even if it's just talking to a friend, but they're going to find that help because of something that you started. And personally, I think you should be proud of that.
I mean, that's another thing that I'll say to anybody that wants to talk to me about it. You can find the Wrestling with Depression page on Facebook very, very easily. It is just that. It is just Wrestling with Depression on Facebook. Feel free to message the page. I'm the only one with any access to the inbox on the page, so anything that you do want to talk about, I mean, it certainly won't go any further than with me, but I'm more than happy to discuss with anybody. If anybody does ever want to talk, just go on there, find the page, and message through on the Wrestling with Depression page, and anything that you do say will obviously stay with me. So if you do ever find that you need to talk, then the page is always there. So fingers crossed we will find someone as well who has the time to help us finish the documentary. So again, any aspiring filmmakers out there, sadly there is no budget for it. Any budget that we did have so far has now already been spent that people put donations in for to help us going. So unless there's anybody out there with any money to burn who would like to put some money towards helping us get this finished, or any videographers or filmmakers that feel they could come and get it filmed and finished for us and get the product out there, then that would all be very much appreciated.
I mean, that would be absolutely fantastic. If you can get this project like completely done and dusted, and then get it out there for the world to see.
Exactly. That's all that's holding us up at the moment is funding. We've got no more funds available to put into it ourselves now. So it's just a case of now we either need someone who wants to film it and put it all together and can commit to maybe 3 or 4 times when we can go and film something. It's not masses of time. Probably 3 or 4 days worth would get it now finished. So. Well, anyone who can help, please get in touch.
I'm sure we'll be able to put this out there to enough ears and see if we can get someone who will be able to help with this, because it is as we've been saying, it's a fantastic project and it needs to be seen. It really does. Yeah.
Sorry guys, I need to pull out of the interview just for a second. Just to mention our main sponsor of the i6 Wrestling Podcast, the longest running WWE predictions and betting website that cover all bookmakers for the best odds, meaning that you don't have to go trawling through the endless amount of websites and apps out there. WrestlingBetting.co.uk does that for you. I use WrestlingBetting.co.uk personally to bet on all major WWE pay-per-views. They give their predictions, they give their insights, they go out and find all the odds for you, pass on those offers to you. It's the best place to bet online. Of course, I always gamble responsibly, and I implore that you do exactly the same. And as well as finding all of the best odds for you, they also giving you the best deals. That's right, if you head over to wrestlingbetting.co.uk/ISACS, that's /ISACS, you can sign up today for completely free. That's right, nothing at all. It will not cost you a penny, and you can check out their entire archive of results from past WWE pay-per-views. It's well worth checking out. That's wrestlingbetting.co.uk/ISACS. Now back over to Mike and Harvey Dale.
Right. I think it's time to talk about the massive elephant in the room of British wrestling.
Well, actually, I mean, he's more like 2'6", so I'd hardly call him a massive elephant. Like little hobbit, little boil on my arse, maybe. But
for the fans who don't know what we're talking about, yes, Harvey and Ben Old. Ben Old is the promoter for Southside Wrestling. Now, obviously, if anyone has Harvey Dale or Ben Old on social network, or you haven't basically been living under a rock for the past couple of years, you will know that these two do not get on. Now, just going to say, before we even start this, we did try and get in touch with Ben Old about coming onto the show, and he has politely decided not to do that.
Shocking.
At this time, but, obviously things could change in the future. But, Harvey, personally, the only thing I know is that the two of you do not like each other. That is all I know, right? For anyone who's out there like me, what happened? Because apparently, the two of you were friends way back when, before this kicked off. Ben runs Southside, you run Hope. You knew each other and you were friendly. And
yeah, I worked.
What happened to start this? Just what happened to actually, from your point of view, what happened? Because this is now one of the most, maybe not in a good way, or maybe not in a bad way either. This is one of the most talked about things in British wrestling at the moment, which is mad considering that you're two promoters.
Exactly.
And normally,
it's ridiculous. The fact of the matter is, I've reached out to Ben to try and get someone to mediate, maybe a public meeting between us where everything can be thrashed out and settled and left. On numerous occasions, Roughneck has tried to speak to us both. Ligero's tried to speak to us both, put us both into a group message on Facebook to try and thrash things out between us. Julia, Soraya Knight, did exactly the same. She added us both into a knocking our heads together kind of message. Every single time it happens, he just leaves the group message straight away. He's not interested in discussing it. He's not interested in sitting down with me face to face. But the reason he won't sit down with me face to face is because you cannot lie to someone who already knows the truth when they are sat in front of you. And he knows that the second he speaks about this, I will rip him to pieces, because every single thing that comes out of the guy's mouth is bollocks. Absolute, pure bollocks.
What happened? What started this? Because this didn't just come out of nowhere. So
I worked for Southside for a number of years. I was friendly with Ben. He used to come and stay at my house when I lived in Nottingham. He used to come and stay there whenever he would come up to poster his Nottingham shows and things. When Ben's had a drink, his tongue gets very loose. There was a promotion going to start in Sheffield a few years ago called Pro Wrestling Republic, which was going to be run by Stephen Gauntley. Ben was going to share some international talents with him. Ben revealed to me when we were getting drunk at my house one night not to worry about Pro Wrestling Republic running, saying that it wouldn't. I asked him what he meant, and he basically let me into a little secret of his, was that he had already got plans to sabotage Pro Wrestling Republic by calling the council to make sure that the licence would be revoked, to make sure that the venue had phone calls saying not to let them run, and a number of other stupid little tricks to make sure that Pro Wrestling Republic never got off the ground. There was also issues with flight monies and stuff with regards to Steve Carino, who was supposed to be booked for the 2 that they were sharing. What actually went on between Ben and Stephen, I wouldn't like to hazard a guess at, because I only ever speak in fact and not in rumour. But there was definitely a discrepancy in something, which meant Steve Carino never managed to even get to the country. I asked Ben why he was doing it. He told me that, you watch this space, I don't want Pro Wrestling Republic running because Southside is going to be running Sheffield. Lo and behold, within a few months, Southside was running in Sheffield. Pro Wrestling Republic was gone, never to be heard of again. That didn't sit well with me. That was the start of the issues between me and Ben. I knew he was making calls, trying to get other people's shows cancelled. Any areas that he wanted to run, he would legitimately either ring up pretending to be from the council himself, ring the venue and tell them that their licence wasn't right and the show would be cancelled. He always waits to do this till like 4:59 on a Friday night as well, knowing full well that venue cannot then ring the council back and check that was legit afterwards. They've either got to cancel the show or take a risk of running and making a mockery of themselves if the police were to turn up and shut them down, potentially losing the licence for the venue altogether. So it's all very clever. It's all very slimy and very sly. Then there was the personal issues I spoke of with Alex Gracie, which caused me and Sticks to go separate ways. Obviously, Sticks stayed working with Ben, got closer, so me and Sticks drifted apart, and Ben just became an even bigger piece of shit the longer it went on, really. Let me paint a picture of the kind of person that Ben Old is, for those who don't know anything about him. Ben Old is the kind of guy who defrauded Barclays Bank out of sick pay, claiming to have depression, which is an utter lie, which is another reason why I hate him. Claiming to have depression so he could be signed off work because he wanted to go promoting and building Southside. So Ben defrauded Barclays Bank out of money, claiming to be clinically depressed so that he could go postering and venue hunting for Southside. Ben also hid under a mask at one of his shows in St Neots, which is the town where his Barclays Bank was at the time. Southside still ran a show while Ben was signed off work. So he hid in the back under a mask. So all the workers who are listening to this know full well that I'm not bullshitting you on this. Ben hid for that entire show under a mask while accepting sick pay from Barclays so he could go and build Southside. This is the kind of human being that Ben Old is. This is the kind of piece of shit that man is.
Well, I know that Ben Old has denied any and all of these accusations, and also made claims against himself, claiming that he's got videos apparently of certain legends in the business saying that you've screwed them out of money, etc. Obviously, there's never been.
I'm incredibly interested to see that. The only people I'm sure he can be alluding to are people like Carlito, where we had Carlito booked for our anniversary show, the second anniversary show, so a couple of years ago now. A couple of months before the show, I booked Carlito's flight. We had everything sorted. Then the trail went cold. I didn't hear from him for a week or so. Then I received an email. I've still got all these. Received an email from Carlito telling me that he'd been contacted by a promotion. It was in Japan or China or something like that. Where they were asking if they need to bring him in for the whole month or something. They were going to pay him X amount to do it, blah, blah, blah. Would he be able to rearrange with me and pull out on the tour and do things like that? Obviously, I left it with him because it sounded like a lot of money he was talking about. Then he came back to me and said, yes, he was doing that. So we obviously took him off our show, replaced him with somebody else and didn't worry about it. Then I received an email from Carlito a couple of weeks afterwards saying, "Oh, well played, Harvey. You got me." Something along those lines, basically making out that I'd been this whatever it was, Chinese, Japanese promoter or whatever, and that the thing had never existed. I know full well that was Ben that would have been contacting him, and he screwed us out of Hacksaw Jim Duggan. He screwed us out of several different things. I mean, we were having issues again. The trail went cold with Duggan. Then suddenly it's announced on the Southside page that rather than appearing on our show, he's actually appearing on the Southside show instead. It's been a long list. You want to talk to international superstars about what a piece of shit Ben Old is and how he owes them money and how he cost their family money? Somebody speak to Rene Dupree, because I know he's very willing to speak on the fact that Ben Old spent several years screwing him out of money and basically being a piece of shit.
I mean, there's also the the issue of posters. About posters getting ripped down. Now, this is one of the oldest friggin' situations in the book. I know that, like, personally, obviously, it's no secret that I work for BWP. I've been working for Steve, booking and whatnot, basically learning everything that he can teach me for the last few years. And
can you teach him how to book Harvey Dale? Because he's never quite grasped that one. I mean, it's really easy. You drop into my inbox, we have a chat, and then you give me some dates. I mean, it's really easy. It's actually really fucking straightforward to do. I mean, so many promotions have cottoned on to how to do it, but Steve he seems to get lost with it. I don't know. It's a weird one.
You'd think with you being just down the road as well, he might have thought about. Hang on a minute, isn't there some cockney down the road? He might be willing to come up here and cut some promos.
I know he uses people from Stoke. I can be in Stoke in 40 minutes. It's not a difficult one. It's a dead easy one. So you think that
you were driving up with Phil Woodvine in no time.
I mean, driving in a car with Phil would be an absolute treat and an absolute pleasure, and I could teach him how to be a manager while we're doing it as well.
Oh, shots fired! I like it.
He loves Phil. He's a fucking diamond. So he's a diamond.
He is. Shout out to Phil Woodvine, you absolutely filthy fucking legend, yeah. All right, getting back to what I was actually saying. I mean, a couple of years ago, a very high profile. That's all I'm going to say. But a very high profile British promoter accused Sax and the rest of us of ripping their posters down and trying to basically sabotage their shows that were local to us.
Yeah.
And literally Sax got years worth of phone calls, threats. We got talent blackballed. I mean, we couldn't use certain talent through the country, and I'll give you one of their names who, not anymore, but because obviously he's now going to be on our next show. But we couldn't use El Ligero. We'd approached Legs so many times about coming to work for us, and there was a bar up there. He was told he could not come and work for us, just out of a personal preference for said other promotion. I'm not going to name drop because that's not what I'm here to do. Steve will. But, so I know, there's a certain level of knowing where that comes from. Yeah. And it's a shitty move for anyone to do to anyone. Because obviously posters were getting ripped down.
Anybody who feels that threatened and needs to go ripping my posters down is a person of sad existence to begin with. I mean, it's one of those sad little moves. It was actually a show. Where did we have it? I think the show was Bedford. Was it Bedford? The posters were certainly in Bedford. I can't think where. Perhaps we were running. Perhaps it was when we were doing a Milton Keynes show and we posted in Bedford. And some of our trainees who lived in Bedford had been around and put the posters up, and then they obviously took a photo and sent it straight over to me of a Southside St Neots poster right over the top of one of ours. He was too lazy to even fucking take ours down and pretend that it had already been ripped down and he just posted himself. He just fucking stuck it over the top. So yeah, straight away I fucking got that photo and stuck it straight up on Facebook. So he's just a piece of shit. He's a sad, lonely little piece of shit who has nothing better to do than try and ruin other people's stuff. And the thing is with Ben, the only time that Southside was ever any good was when he had people around him that were advising him and telling him how to book shows, how to book matches. Because what Ben does is he books 40-odd people for a show, and he has no idea how to use them, but he's got all these guys. So every single Southside show, you look back over history, look at every single Southside show, and I guarantee you'll find a 5-way or a 6-way or a random 6-man tag or something like that means absolutely nothing. It's a complete throwaway full of people that have no reason to be in that match or anything whatsoever. It doesn't go anywhere, but it's because he books too many people, because he's a fucking idiot. He's just got no clue what he's doing. Punters should never become promoters, and that is all Ben Old ever was.
Well, I've heard that said, a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, a punter becomes a promoter. It never does go well. You do have the odd story of
there are odd ones who are sensible enough to be around the business, take a step back and do things properly and slowly. Peter Blackham is a good example of a fan who is doing really well for himself. He got his shop, the Mystery Islands. They've done really well with the shop. He put some evening wids on. He's been around the business now long enough to understand how it works, and he's done things properly. And again, he's another one that there are naysayers who will try and rubbish him and things like that. But he's done stuff the right ways. He's an example of a fan who has done stuff correctly. But Ben Old was just a punter that sat in the front row at 1PW and got up people's arses and then went, you know what? I'm going to run shows. And he still books them like a punter now, because all he does is get people over, imports especially, he gets them over as many as he can per show, so he can get his little wrestling figures signed and have his photo with them. I mean, this is a guy who still goes and hangs around the WWE hotel when the guys are in town. This is one of our supposed top promoters acting like a punter, going around getting photos with all the wrestlers as they get off a bus. Just have some fucking self-respect.
I will say this. I will say this before you, because I know for a fact I could let you just talk now, and you would go on an hour tirade, because you can tell you can tell how much heat there is there. But Ben stated that he's retiring at the end of this year. He's going to be stepping away from wrestling, and Southside's going to be run by someone else.
It can't come soon enough.
What if shit keeps happening? What if Ben steps away and the stuff that apparently you've been blaming Ben for, and I'm not in any way getting in anyone's defence. As I say, I don't know anything about the situation. I don't know, personally, I don't know either of you from Adam. This is the first conversation yourself and I have ever had, and I've never had a conversation with Ben. So I'm just playing devil's advocate when I ask this question. I mean, what if it was someone else? What if someone has literally just sat back and watched you and Ben rip shit out of each other for their own amusement? I mean, I don't know, it might sound a little bit far-fetched, but you know and I know that the wrestling business, that the business side of it can be more far-fetched than the stuff that we put on the fucking shows.
100%. The thing is, Ben, when he's had a drink, he's very loose-tongued and he spilled his guts to me. I know full well that Ben was doing it to other people. I know full well the tricks that he was using, because he literally explained the whole fucking lot to me when he thought that I was going to be on board with it and that I was okay with things like that. He explained the whole lot to me, and I've watched him. I mean, these are tricks that not any Joe off the street would just think, oh, we can get this show cancelled around. This is stuff that Ben had spent years fucking doing and planning, and it's all stuff. And I said, and when Roughneck did try to mediate between us, it was over the Duggan thing. I ended up with a private phone call with Ben for about 5 minutes, and I called him out and everything on the phone. And he gave me all the right noises and all the right signals to let me know that I was completely right, without admitting it in case I was recording it, obviously. But Ben knows full well what Ben's about. I said the whole reason he won't sit down, if it's not him, and he really wanted this whole shit to stop, because I've got better things to do in my day than worry about Ben Old and try and put right all the shit he causes and all the stuff that he does. I mean, at the end of the day, he's taken money out of my family's pocket, and that's why I fucking hate the geezer. But if Ben really wanted this to end, and he wanted it all to be finished and put to bed, why won't he come and sit down with me somewhere in a room full of people? So there's no bullshit, there's no he said, she said. Anybody can hear exactly what we've said. And it gets left a handshake, and we agree to disagree and walk away. He's been offered that time and time again. Every single time he shuns away from it. And it is because you can't lie to someone's face. Everything that comes out of Ben Old's mouth is bullshit. Every single thing. I mean, I'm not even convinced his name's Ben Old.
Right. You mentioned Roughneck mediating. Wanting to mediate, and you've mentioned a couple of other big names in our country in the business who've wanted to step in. But also this week, when the podcast was being promoted on the ISACS page and also on your personal pages as well, a lot of fans, a lot of people were responding and either didn't want this to happen, didn't want you to talk about it on this show.
Yeah.
Or we're saying that, obviously, you're never going to work it out. Oh, you should do this. Or, a lot of people were trying to get involved. Now, whether for the purest of reasons or not, I mean, how does it feel, when you've got so many people trying to trying to help as much as they can, but trying to get involved?
I completely agree with them. If there was a way to put this to bed, if there was a way to end it, I would take it in a heartbeat. But I don't believe he will ever stop what he's doing, no matter what. But if there was a way to end it, I said the thing with Ben is, well, anytime anybody criticises him online, any fan, and there'll be tons of fans that listen to this that will say, I've had that message. Every single time Ben Old is criticised online by anybody, or anybody has the smallest things. There's a wrestling fan called John Searle who's very well known. He goes around to an awful lot of shows all over the country.
Yeah, I know John, yeah.
John's another one. John used to suffer at the hands of Ben all the time. And the second that John would have any opinion on anything, Ben would be straight into his inbox, having a go, having a pop, saying how great he was, saying how horrible I was, saying how it was all rubbish. He does it to everybody. we've got fans. As I said, there are fans who've made comments and stuff, and he jumps straight into their inboxes with either with abuse or excuses and things like that. He's just a weasel. He's never man enough to admit when he's done something wrong. I mean, I'm not perfect. I'm not squeaky clean, but I am man enough to admit when I'm in the wrong and when I've done shit that I shouldn't have done. I've said stuff about Ben Ard that I shouldn't have said in the past. Some of the ways I go about things are not ideal, and I can hold my hands up and take responsibility for that. That's fine. I've pulled some of Ben Ard's posters down when I've been walking through Nottingham City Centre and I've seen them, because I think, why the fuck not? Because the amount of money he's taken out of my pocket, the amount of grief he's caused, I think, why not? I shouldn't have done that. That's not, because it's not hurting Ben necessarily, it's hurting the guys who work on the show, which should come first. So I'm not squeaky clean, and I'd never claim to be. But I said Ben he's a weasel, and I just wish that he would be man enough. In fact, while we're on that subject of him being man enough, Roy Knight on my status the other day
literally about to bring this up.
came up with the perfect way of us setting this. And that is, as you were probably quite. Do you go on then? You can say it. It's your interview. You ask me, and we'll cover it.
I was about to say Roy and his brother Ricky both tried to push the idea of a charity boxing match between yourselves. And do you know what?
A charity boxing match to raise money for Cavendish Cancer Care or any kind of cancer charity. Obviously, with Chris Travis. I mean, this is another thing that I'll touch on the Chris Travis thing in a minute with Ben. Roy came up with the idea of a charity boxing match between myself and Ben. We put all the money towards something that actually means something, and we fight it out like men. And at the end, win or lose, you shake hands and you say, you know what, that's it, it's done, it's dusted. We've settled it like men. It's finished. I know Ben isn't a man. I know he's not man enough to accept that challenge. But if there was a way to have a charity boxing match and make something good come from all this bullshit, then I would be more than up for it. I would happily put my name down to do a charity boxing match against Ben to make sure that we raise some good money for a really good cause.
Well, I mean, the Cavendish Cancer Charity is an absolutely fantastic cause. It really is, and it would be. I mean, you're right. It would be the most entertaining way, and as you know, as we said before, a lot of fans have been, have basically got invested in this feud. Now, as I said, we said this at the beginning of the show. This feud has outshone a lot of things just going on in British wrestling, like on the wrestling side of things.
Which is wrong, because there's so many good things in British wrestling at the moment, and so many things for us to be positive about that it really shouldn't be.
This is something I did want to address to you before the end of the show. British wrestling at the moment is coming into a new golden era.
Yeah.
Everyone around the world, all eyes are on British wrestling, and this is a time now where stuff like this shouldn't be going on. Promoters cutting each other's throats over any differences right now. It's not helping the business, and it's not helping the rest of the world looking at the UK, because now we've got big stars who are coming out of this country who are now going and making names all over the world. Will Ospreay is a perfect example. I mean, a lot of guys would go straight for the guys who've gone to WWE, but no, I'd go straight to Ospreay and Skull. There are two guys now who have gone out off their own backs and made a name for themselves. I mean, Ospreay's killing it in Japan, now killing it in Ring of Honor. Skull is the most entertaining television champion Ring of Honor has had for years. Yeah, and these are two guys who are ambassadors for the UK. Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, these are guys who are ambassadors for the UK. They're going out there and they're basically showing what the UK can do. Yeah. And I think now is the time, as you said yourself, you are willing to bury the hatchet. Right? And
I would love to wake up tomorrow and never have to worry about the name Ben Ard ever again. For it never to cross my lips, never to cross my keyboard again. I would love never to have to mention the name Ben Ard again. And if that is a way that we can settle it and do some good, then I say let's do it. The challenge is there. It's now out there. If someone is able to talk him into actually doing it and doing some good with his miserable existence of raising some money for charity, then that would be good. Because while I'm on the Chris Travis subject with Ben ostracised Trav for 2 years. If you look back at the Southside results and the histories, Trav didn't work for Southside for nearly 2 years. Ben went round trying to rubbish him to everybody. Absolutely everybody. They had a falling out because Trav chose to do Flutter's show over Ben's, which clashed on the same day. And let's face it, I've worked on a PCW show as well. I always would have chosen to do a PCW show over Southside. And for that, Ben went round absolutely rubbishing him to everybody. It was only when he got ill that Ben suddenly decided what a great guy Trav was again, and how he was one of his best friends, and all that sort of thing, and how he'd done so much with Trav. Ben Old released a Southside anniversary hoodie for their anniversary last year. It says something like, I don't know, 200 shows, 20-something towns, X amount of wrestlers, X amount of this. And at the bottom of it says, one Chris Travis. Dave Stewart, who runs Phoenix Events and has run the Trav charity show One More Round 2 years in a row, left a comment on the photo of the Southside hoodie just saying, out of interest, is any of this money with Trav's name, is any of the money from this hoodie going to Cavendish Cancer Care or anything like that? What did Bernard do? He deleted the comment. Didn't even bother answering him, just deleted the comment. No money from the sale of those hoodies has ever been seen by a charity. It's all gone in Bernard's pocket, and the only reason he put Trav's name on it, to sell more hoodies. That's wrong.
Right. I think we've talked enough about you and Ben Old, and I don't want to finish on a negative note by talking about this. So we're going to do some light, fluffy shit, just to bring the mood back up.
Yeah, we're going to talk about my Rana.
Sorry, say again.
Are we going to talk about my Hurricane Rana or my Canadian Destroyer?
We are going to talk about both of these things because, ladies and gentlemen, get on YouTube, get on Facebook, and find Harvey Dale, wrestling promoter and manager, but not wrestler, doing a Hurricane Rana and
the Will Ospreay
Destroyer on Will Ospreay.
On Will Ospreay. Well, you see, the Hurricane Rana was one of our training sessions down at the Milton Keynes Academy. Will was there doing a seminar. All the students had done their Ranas and stuff like this, because obviously Will doesn't teach people tech. Will teaches people to do Will shit, which is great. Because
I can't imagine Will Ospreay coming out and going out, right, today guys, we're going to teach you all about old school psychology, right? Work ahead, lock.
Will's seminars are fucking great, and anybody who's got a training school, you should most definitely book Will to come and do a seminar, because they're just great, and he's actually such a good teacher. No, and he's so good with the younger guys. But yeah, basically, so the story goes, Will said everybody had done their Ranas. Will stood there and he said around the whole class, oh, has everybody done one? And some of my smart-ass students decided to turn around and go, Harvey hasn't done one. So I was like, I don't fucking need to do it. I know I can do it, etc. I've been doing it for years. They were all like, yeah, blah, blah, whatever. I was like, I've got fucking jeans on and a hoodie. I'm not doing it. And they were all like, oh, you can't do it. Will looked at me and he went, you can do it, can't you? I went, of course I can fucking do it. So we went over it and just nailed it. And then it ended up, I think, with about 40,000 views. I don't think Roughneck's seen it, though. So if someone could find it and just tag Roughneck in.
Yeah, make sure, to all our fans out there, right, just make sure, please make sure that Roughneck sees this video.
If someone could find
his life.
Tag Roughneck in, because I'm not entirely sure if he's ever seen it. I think he'd be well impressed. So I should definitely do that. And then obviously the next time, the Destroyer, Will turns up at the Bedford show, and I've been drinking Jack Daniels all fucking day, because let's face it, it was the evening by that time. So he turns out and he gives me a big cunt. He's like, we need to do that Rana on the show. And I was like, no, look, we did it once. We both lived. Let's draw a line under it and say, look, we nailed it once. Let's not push our luck and do it again. He's we need to think of something else to do then. Stupidly, having had several shots of Jack Daniels by then, I turn around and go, oh yeah, why don't we do a Canadian Destroyer? And Will's eyes just lit up. And his big smile on his face, and he's just standing there looking at me going, that's it. I was like, you're fucking mental. I'm like, that's not it, we're not doing that. And the more Jack Daniels I had as the evening went on, the more it seemed like a good idea. So we just ended up doing a Canadian Destroyer as well, and that went ridiculously mental on views and people seeing it as well. So
yeah, I mean, the reaction for that was absolutely fantastic, and I'm sure that's another one Roughneck's not seen.
No, I don't. He probably hasn't. No, I mean, we should definitely link him into these. I mean, it's something that he could learn how to do, I'm sure. So we should definitely tag him in. He's going to kill me at TNT. By the way, I'm on TNT for anybody listening. My next up and coming shows are.
If any of our fans out there have got Roughneck on social media, just please make sure to at him, tag him, whatever you need to do. But just make sure he sees this video again.
Do whatever you can. I'm actually working a match with him on Thursday next week at TNT in Liverpool. It's a fucking phenomenal looking card. And it is the Manc Union versus, what have I got? I've got the Manc Union versus the Mob. So getting to work up close and personal with Roughneck is always a delight and a pleasure, especially being in front of a room full of Scousers.
Oh, and let's not forget Roughneck's incredibly talented young sprightly tag team partner.
Yes, I mean Mr. Meyer, Grandad, as I love to affectionately refer to him as. I love Keith Meyer. He's a gentleman and a scholar and a pleasure to be around. And it is always fun getting to do stuff with Ashton and Sam. So and then Bubblegum. I dare say I will probably be accompanying Bubblegum in his championship match against Wild Boar, which should be completely different to the tag match, but fun nonetheless. So make sure you get along to TNT on Thursday the 18th in Liverpool.
Yeah, anyone who's in the Liverpool area, make sure you do not want to miss that one. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic show down at TNT. As you say, Keith Meyer and Roughneck taking on the Mank Union. You've got Bubblegum versus Wild Boar. You've got so much more going on that card. It is going to be absolutely fantastic. And our friends over at TNT always put on a fantastic show. Right, we're going to do one more little quick fire one before we go. I'm going to fire off a couple of names at you. You know, you give me the one word answer. You know the drill. Everyone's seen it. Everyone does it. But we'll have a little bit. I
apologise for my language in advance.
Oh, well, you know, this is an over-18s show. Won't be letting you kids listen to it. I won't be letting my kids listen to it. Right, so let's fire off some names and let's get some reactions, okay?
Go on.
Right. You ready?
Yeah.
Joey Hayes.
Fantastic.
Danny Hope.
Fantastic. Tassels. Stole them from me. No, he didn't. He's better than mine.
Bubblegum.
Probably the best worker in the country at the moment, having the biggest standout matches.
Will Ospreay.
Made a name for himself. International superstar. Future ambassador.
Kenny Omega.
No idea who that is. Who's that?
Wow, really?
I've genuinely no idea who that is.
Kenny Omega.
No idea.
No.
Is he the geezer that was here a few weeks ago with the what are the kicky boys called? That's them. Yeah, is he the other one of them?
Yeah.
Oh, stupid hair.
Fantastic. Rampage.
Brown.
It's the UK guys. Rampage Brown.
Scary as fuck. Phenomenal worker. Legitimate.
Yeah. Alex Cyanide.
Great big man, needs to work more like a big man. Great guy, great lad.
Zach Gibson.
Again, phenomenal. The whole Scouts thing is great.
And we'll finish off with one of BWP's mainstays about Dylan Roberts.
One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Sadly, I've never had enough interaction with him. I mean, this is where I'm doing a sax, and I've not learned how to book Dylan Roberts, which is wrong. But one of the nicest guys. Whenever you meet him, one of the nicest guys to have a chat with, and all the stuff of Dylan's that I've ever watched and seen has just been so good that he should be out a lot more than he is.
Harvey, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an experience. It really has. I just hope I've done Sax and the iSax fans proud by bringing this interview today.
You have. It's been a thoroughly enjoyable afternoon. So I thank you very much for your time, and I hope it certainly does the trick and gets you lots of new subscribers.
Let's hope, Let's hope. But I mean, this will not be the last time we have you on the show. We'll definitely have to bring you on again.
We can record one maybe live when I come over to do a BWP show. So.
Well, you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know to get on BWP. I'll put a word in for you.
So any BWP fans that are listening to this, if you want to see the man with the golden tongue, if you want to see shit done properly, and you want someone who's outspoken and going to give you something a little bit different, get on top of Steve Saxon on Facebook and get tagging him in, get tweeting him and saying, look, let's get Harvey Dale over to a BWP show. He can get to Stoke really easily.
Hashtag Harvey Dale for BWP.
Exactly that.
The future we all need.
Exactly that. Thank you very much for your time.
No problem, Harvey. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Goodbye.
Well, there you go. First and foremost, well done, Mike. An excellent interview. Did very well for his first time podcasting. I know I'm still quite new to this, but Mike picked it up really, really quickly. And I think you'll agree. I hope you agree that was a tremendous interview of Hope Wrestling's Harvey Dale. Now, Harvey, of course, the main focus of that interview, which Mike did try and sweeten it off towards the end, but the main focus of the interview for Harvey personally was the topic of Ben Out. Now, Ben, was invited, as I said at the beginning of this podcast, to come on and join us, but he didn't want to. He didn't want to get into a war of words over the ISAX podcast. I can think of worse places. But this invite will be sent out to him once again. I will see if Ben wants to come onto the podcast, give his response, if he has a response at all. Ben, if you don't want to come on, that's fair enough. That certainly does not make you guilty of anything that Harvey's accusing you of. And as Mike did say during the interview, we're not all backing Harvey here. The facts are not out there. Nobody has yet to produce a bit of evidence to say that it was Ben or it wasn't Ben, or it's just Harvey making it up, or Harvey may indeed be completely accurate. As Mike pointed out, I myself, as the promoter of Britannia Wrestling Promotions, for a number of years got a bit of shit from one of the UK wrestling bigwigs, if you like. Now, Mike wasn't going to mention the name. He's far too diplomatic for that, but I'm not. All Star Wrestling accused me of taking their posters down on their North Wales shows, predominantly in Rhyl, because basically I run shows just a few miles down the road in Prestatyn, which is the neighbouring town to Rhyl, and they run their weekly summer shows midweek. I run my weekly summer shows every Saturday night in Prestatyn, and there was a little bit of a conflict there. Their posters would be taken down, and so were ours, and they assumed that it was me. And for years I was getting phone calls of all sorts of, loose threats. And All Stars did blackball me for a while. They stopped certain talent from working for Britannia Wrestling Promotions, a couple of imports that I had booked, and then they pulled out fairly last minute because they spoke to All Stars and they kind of besmirched my name, shall we say. But over time, that's kind of been forgotten about. But the point here is that I wasn't guilty of taking a single poster down, not a single one, nor did I ever ask anybody or suggest or hint to anybody that they do that against All Stars or any other promotions in the areas that I'd run. But my name still got dragged through dirt for a period. Luckily, I've come out the other end, and I think anybody that knows me personally knows that was never the case. I'm not that sort of person. It happens to me all the time. The posters go disappearing. It could be people on the street. It could be the local authorities doing it. It could be business owners doing it. It could be anybody. But to point that finger can do a lot of damage. Now, if Ben is guilty of doing it, then yeah, I got to agree. He and anybody else that takes down other people's posters is an absolute piece of shit. But if he's not guilty, which may very well be the case, then Harvey's been played for a fool a little bit by somebody out there. Or maybe it isn't anybody in particular playing games. Maybe it's just local authorities taking down the posters like it happens all over the place. Who knows? I guess we'll never know. But that invitation will be extended to Ben once again, and we'll see where this goes from here. But anyway, I'm going to wrap up right now. I just want to again thank everybody that's tuned into this episode. I ask that you go back onto Spreaker or go back onto iTunes and check out our previous episodes. Episode 5 last week with Nick Aldis from Impact Wrestling and World Sport Wrestling was a great listen. It smashed records on my personal Spreaker and iTunes account with so many downloads and listeners. But please, if you do go back onto those platforms, please do like us, please do subscribe. If you can leave us a rating and a comment, that'd be fantastic. Thank you very much. Until then, as always, check out our social media. Check us out on Facebook and Twitter at ISAX Podcast. I'm always throwing material out there to get people talking, get people involved, and you'll get all your updates as to who's going to be the next guest on episode 7 of the ISAX Wrestling Podcast. So you get that sneak preview as well, and you get the opportunity to throw your questions and comments out to the people that I will be interviewing. So once again, thank you to Mike, thank you to Harvey. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know via social media. Always great to have feedback. But until next time, thank you. Good night.
You have been listening to the ISAX Wrestling Podcast. Follow Steve Saxon on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at ISAX Podcast. And remember to subscribe and 5-star rate this podcast on iTunes. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Saxon has left the building.